Sometimes people say, I just don't trust my intuition anymore. And usually, what they really mean is, I can't hear myself clearly. Because intuition rarely disappears, it just gets quieter as life gets louder. Noise has a way of pretending to be wisdom, other people's opinions, urgency, pressure, fear, comparison, constant information, constant expectations. And after a while, you stop asking, what do I actually feel? And start asking, what should I do? That shift seems small, but it changes everything because should usually comes from outside, from expectations, from survival, from fear of disappointing people, from fear of choosing wrong. But intuition speaks differently. It is rarely loud. It doesn't rush. It doesn't panic. It doesn't scream for attention. It feels more like quiet knowing, a pause, a pull, a feeling in your body that something fits or doesn't, even before your mind can explain why. And because it is quiet, it is easy to ignore, especially when life gets busy, especially when your mind gets crowded, especially when everyone around you seems so certain about what you should do. So you override yourself. You say yes when your body said no. You stay when your peace just wanted to leave. You chose what looked right instead of what felt true. And at first, it feels practical, responsible even. But slowly, you begin to feel disconnected, not because every choice was wrong, but because you stopped including yourself in your own life. That creates a strange kind of loneliness, being surrounded by life but feeling absent from it. And then people call that confusion. But sometimes it isn't confusion, sometimes it is self abandonment. And I say that gently because most people don't do it on purpose. They do it through survival, through people pleasing, through trying to be loved, through trying to be safe, through trying to avoid disappointing people. You learn that peace comes from adaptation, not honesty. So you become skilled at reading rooms, at anticipating needs, at becoming easier to carry for everyone else. And somewhere in that process, your own voice becomes quieter, not gone, just quieter. And then one day, you sit with a decision and genuinely do not know what you want, not because you are lost, but because you haven't asked yourself honestly in a very long time. That is why intuition is not something you find once and keep forever. It is something you return to again and again. And returning does not begin with huge life decisions. It begins much smaller. It begins with noticing what makes your body tighten, what makes it soften, who drains your energy, who makes you feel more like yourself, what places make you breathe easier, what choices leave you restless afterward. Your body often knows first before your mind is ready to admit it. That is not weakness, that is intelligence. Your nervous system remembers truths your mind is still trying to negotiate with. And intuition often lives there, not as magic, but as accumulated truth your body has already learned. That is why slowing down matters, because speed disconnects you from subtle things. When everything feels urgent, you stop listening deeply. You react, you perform, you survive. But intuition requires stillness, space, presence, honesty. And honesty can be uncomfortable because sometimes intuition tells you things you were hoping not to know, that this relationship is draining you, that this path is no longer yours, that your body has been asking for rest for months. That truth can feel inconvenient, but ignored truth does not become untrue. It just becomes louder in other ways, through burnout, through resentment, through anxiety, through that constant feeling that something is off. Sometimes anxiety is not your body malfunctioning. Sometimes it is your body protesting, a life your mind keeps trying to justify. That deserves attention, not shame. So maybe the better question is not, how do I trust my intuition? Maybe it is, where have I been overriding myself? That question is honest. And honesty is where self trust begins. Because every time you listen, even in small ways, you rebuild your relationship with yourself. Every time you respect your no, every time you honor your tiredness, every time you choose peace over performance, you tell yourself something powerful: I am safe with me. And that changes everything because a peaceful life is often built from 1,000 small moments where you stopped betraying yourself. Not dramatic transformation, just quiet loyalty to your own truth. And if no one has told you this lately, let me tell you now, you are allowed to trust yourself. You are allowed to choose peace without feeling guilty for it. You are allowed to disappoint people if it means not abandoning yourself. You are allowed to outgrow places that no longer feel like home. And you are not behind for needing time to hear your own voice again. Sometimes clarity takes silence, sometimes healing takes distances, sometimes growth looks like finally saying, no, this is not for me anymore. That is not selfish, that is self respect. And I need you to hear this part clearly. You do not need to become someone else to deserve peace. You only need to come back to yourself. You are not bad at intuition. You have just been surrounded by noise for too long. Be still long enough, and your own voice will return. It was never gone. I believe in you. You don't have to carry everything alone. I'll be here.